Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to give a keynote address on building brand Africa through strategic storytelling, Tabile Ngwato, the CEO of Rapid Innovation Group. Welcome, Tabile.
Thank you so much, Rahima, for that introduction. And thank you so much to 67 CEOs for having us. So, for the last decade, I've honed in on becoming an entrepreneur in the broadcast and technology space. And all of this came to a culmination when I co founded Newsroom Africa in 2019. As the CEO of the business, one of my key responsibilities lies in making sure that we reach our vision of being Africa's leading and credible news and information service. Now, this means focusing on stories that put Africa on a global platform and help us to stand out as world class storytellers. It is in this capacity that I stand in front of you today to discuss a topic I'm very passionate about, which is building brand Africa through strategic storytelling. So you might ask why storytelling matters. So individual perceptions and narratives are often shaped and formed by the issues and encounters people interact with daily. So whether experienced, seen, or heard, people formulate opinions on what they believe to be true. For decades, Africa has been portrayed through an incomplete lens. The outside world has often been told parts of a story, but not the whole. And because no one is going to correct or change this, it's up to us to take the responsibility of owning our narrative. No one can tell our stories the way we do. No one can portray our people the way we can. And no one can showcase our news and views the way we know how. The way we tell our stories is linked to our DNA. And so the legitimacy thereof is what pushes us to be sincere when we craft specific narratives. Stories create emotional connection, and strategic storytelling in particular helps associate with African brands, cultures, and people on a more human level. For South Africa, history has shown that if we don't tell our own stories, others will, and often with preconceptions and ignorance. So, without our own voices, storytellers, journalists, filmmakers, and influencers being the ones to shout out and amplify our narratives, we are actually nothing. We are the ones responsible for reframing the perspectives of how we are perceived. And we must be consistent to reinforce our overall brand stance as Brand Africa. Now, on to continental positioning. I think I speak for most of us when I say there is a collective fatigue when people refer to all the countries in Africa as Africa. We are a continent of 54 countries that are rich in diverse languages, systems, cultures, and economies. The upside of the continental unity that we must showcase to the world is the wealth of our multiplicity. When you look at the rest of the world as it stands, this is undoubtedly our main unique selling proposition. Our diversity, as often as it brings us to loggerheads, is actually one of our purest currencies. From tourism to natural resources, film and television, fashion, technological innovations, and the overall cultural splendor we have to offer, we truly are the place to be. No one in the world is positioned in the way that we are, not only geographically, but from a viewpoint of being culturally wealthy. And having said all of this, it is then important to weave in messaging that positions us correctly wherever possible. Without establishing the solid roots of our existence, we can't go anywhere. Storytelling in action. Having co founded a news and current affairs channel, as well as founded a content hub where creating original content is at the center of what we do, I am no stranger to the true power of storytelling. In the news space, the concept of storytelling holds an even heavier mantle because we are tasked with accurately and responsibly portraying the real life stories of both newsmakers and everyday people. Our stories carry weight because they can quite literally save lives and bring relief to the disenfranchised. What they can also do is bring a global spotlight to both the plight and triumphs of an entire continent. So it matters greatly. As Newsroom Africa, our vision is to be Africa's leading and credible news and information service. Our local perspective is unmatched in that our focus is purely on the real human story. We pride ourselves in reflecting to our viewers that we are part of their everyday lives and part of their communities. We are the voice that brings their stories to life, Another of the case studies that we've worked on over the last year is with South Africa's official marketing agency, Brand SA. Using our platform along with strategic creative collateral, we have been able to execute campaigns that speak to the current play your part messaging to all South Africans, highlighting the work being done in the country. Because nation building has always been one of our goals at Newsroom Africa since inception, it is with this in mind that we embarked on this collaboration. In order for us to successfully achieve storytelling in action, we need to constantly ask ourselves two questions. One, what are the current stories being told? And two, what are the gaps that one might find in the way that they are being brought to light? These are the questions that fuel the purpose of the outcome. Another area I'm deeply passionate about as a founder is that of investing in platforms that ultimately showcase storytelling. Building Africa-owned media and tech platforms has been one of my biggest visions as an entrepreneur. No one is going to willingly create space for us as Africans, and so we must create it for one another. Engaging one another on global amplification and network building is what will make sure that we tap into the true African spirit of rising together. Now, we know there are many challenges along this journey, and so being aware of them is also critical. As much as I alluded to a unity earlier, Africa can sometimes be fragmented. Stereotypes and bias can also creep up at times, along with language and accessibility barriers and limited funding across the board. Despite these, there is much that can be done with the collective muscle of key players. This leads me to my next point, which is our role as leaders, founders, and thought leaders. The mission of building Brand Africa through strategic storytelling is not one that can be tackled alone. We have the advantage of having many key players who can effectively make sure that the stories we tell are showcased in a way that brings prestige, honesty, and staying power. From a private sector perspective, we need to continue looking at developing and sustaining meaningful brand partnerships and exploring media investments that accommodate the context of our continent. Corporate storytelling is another aspect we can further push to showcase what we have to offer and have been able to do for decades. On the government side of things, one could look at cultural diplomacy as a means of fostering strategic relationships as well as an export of our creative industries. In South Africa, there have been many successful case studies on this front, which we've observed, such as in the visual art space. The likes of Nelson Makamo and Wanda Buhle-Mbambo have enjoyed international acclaim here. On the literature side of things, the Sunyatis and Zakes Mdas of this world have played a significant role in amplifying African stories. A concerted effort in supporting the export of our creative industries is therefore critical in advancing our stories. In closing, strategic storytelling isn't just marketing, it's identity building. To build Brand Africa is to reclaim Africa's image, tell its stories with dignity and pride, and ensure the world sees the continent as a place of opportunity, complexity, and most importantly, brilliance. Thank you.